Good morning. Today we are continuing quadratic work, only now we're going to do the stuff that all of you like doing the most, which is word questions. So that's what we're doing today and tomorrow. Just briefly go over it, apply some stuff to it, basic couple of page worksheet, but only about 4 or 5 problems. And then we'll talk about it today in Zoom, and then go over it again tomorrow. So first things first, I got some questions that we're going to do together. And I really need you guys to show up to Zoom today, so I don't know what you don't know unless you show up and ask questions. So, first things first, I got a question here. It says the length of a rectangle is 6 more than its width. The area is 91 inches squared. Find the dimensions. So when I do problems like this, I find it much more helpful when I draw it for myself, just so I visually see it and I think about it. It just helps me, identify what this sentence means when I see a picture. So I know the area is 91. I know the length of the rectangle. Here's the length, here's the width. Is 6 more than its width. Now, normally we would call the dimensions the length and the width, but because I'm, thinking about this quadratically, I want to have only one letter variable. So again, if the length is equal to, this is what I want you to think about. If the length is equal to 6 more than the width, why don't I just use this expression to represent the length so that I have only one letter variable that I'm solving for? So this is going to be 6 plus w. So now I hope that makes sense, and again I'll go over that with you guys today in our session. I'm going to read it again. The length of a rectangle is 6 more than its width. The area is 91 inches squared. Find the dimensions. Okay. I think I got a pretty solid thing here. So now I'm going to apply what I know about area. And I know that area is length times width equals the area. So in parentheses, I got 6 plus w times w is equal to 91. Okay. So now let's just apply distributive property. This times this is 6, and I should have rewritten this a little differently, but nonetheless, I want w squared to be in front. So I know when I do this, I get w squared plus 6w equals 91. Well, I'm really close to having this look like a quadratic, so I'm going to subtract 91 from both sides, and I'm going to get this equal to 0. Minus 91 equals 0. Now, you can solve this a number of ways, and again, when you start getting your times tables down a little stronger, factoring is always the easiest, least amount of work. So I'm going to solve this 2 different ways for you, just so you can feel comfortable in solving this any way you'd like. I know that 7 times 13 is 91. So I got to make a positive 6 and a negative 91. So I'm going to have this be w plus 13. I'm going to have this be w minus 7 equals 0. So, because I know that this times this is w squared, I know this times this is negative 7w plus 13w makes a positive 6w, and this times this is negative 91. Now, here's where you got to think rationally, okay? Yes, we have 2 answers here, but only one of these answers will actually work, because to make this quadratic work, I know this w is equal to negative 13, and I know this w is equal to 7 to make this quadratic work. Now, which one of these 2 solutions do you think makes the most sense to represent the width and the length? It has to be the positive number, so that means this is 7 and this is 13, because you replace w with 7. That's how you do that. So that is one way to do this. Now, I know a lot of you are probably going to use the quadratic formula because, yes, it is a little easier, but I want you guys to really understand the math behind this. So let's do the quadratic formula, and you'll see we'll get the exact same answer no matter what. So I'm going to just go to this one right here. So the opposite of b is negative 6 plus or minus square root of 6 squared is 36 minus 4 times 1 times negative 91. Great, made myself do a lot of work that I didn't want to do. But it is what it is. All over 2 times 1, which is 2. So I'm going to do this up here just to save space. I know I got to do a negative times a negative is going to be a positive, so 91 times 4, I got 364 plus 36 is going to be 400. So that inside there is 400. The square root of 400 is 20. So now I got negative 6 plus or minus 20 all over 2. Negative 6 plus 20 is 14. 14 divided by 2 is equal to 7. And I got negative 6 minus 20 is negative 26. Negative 26 divided by 2 is negative 13. And I get the exact same two answers. And you got to use common sense to know that the positive answer is the only realistic solution in this case. So I'm going to get another one up in just a second. All right, got my next question up here for you. So it says, the product of two consecutive integers is 1 less than 4 times their sum. Find the two integers. Now this is a hard question, so the first thing I want you guys to do is, we got our two integers, all right, two consecutive odd integers, all right? So like 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, all those numbers next to each other are consecutive odd. They're always 2 away from each other, all right? So I'm going to read this again. The product of two consecutive integers is, stop right there. That first part right there of that sentence is going to be one side of the equation. The product of two consecutive integers is, product means multiplication. If the first number is the first odd number, the second consecutive right after odd number has to be 2 more than the previous one. So that's how we know this is n plus 2. Don't think of it like, oh, you see 2 here, so you're thinking even. No, even numbers, consecutive even numbers are also two away from each other. Therefore, don't mess that up. So the product of two consecutive integers, I should have said two consecutive odd integers. Did I mess that up? I think I might have. Product of two consecutive, I should have said, all right. Product of two consecutive odd integers, all right. Rare day that Mr. Weber makes a mistake, but it is early. I'm a little sleep, so I need to freshen up my coffee. So, my bad. The product of two consecutive odd integers is, so that might have caused a little confusion, and that's why that is that. Now, is 1 less than 4 times their sum. Now this is the tricky part, because I'm always reading left to right, so I think I write the mathematics left to right. Now remember, order of operations. Is 1 less than 4 times their sum. So 1 less than is subtraction, 4 times their sum. So remember, I'm going to do this multiplication stuff first, and then at the end, I'm going to subtract 1 on this side of the equation. So is 1 less than 4 times their sum. So that means I have to add up these two consecutive odd integers first, then multiply it by 4, then subtract 1. So I'm going to do this. 4 times n plus 2 minus 1. Because I'm going to add their sum first, then I'm going to multiply by 4, then I'll subtract by 1. Now let's do this work. Let's shake it out, okay? So I got n squared plus 2n is equal to, well, let's do this math a little fast. We know this is 2n plus 2, so 2n times 4 is 8n plus 8 minus 1. So I'm going to do this now. N squared plus 2n equals 8n plus 7. Now let's bring everything to the left side of the equation just to keep this guy positive, and let's solve this, okay? So I'm going to subtract 8n, subtract 7, subtract 8n, subtract 7. I got my quadratic as n squared. 2n minus 8n is negative 6n, and 0 minus negative 7 is negative 7 equals 0. So, again, this is why I prefer you guys to look at the question and think, in my arsenal of tricks, what can I do to solve this? What times what is negative 7 and also adds to negative 6? That would be n minus 7 and n plus 1. N times n squared, positive n, negative 7n makes negative 6n. and negative 7 times 1 is negative 7. Now, I've got two answers. I've got n equals 7 or n equals negative 1. So in this case, because you are allowed to have a negative integer in this case, it just makes more sense for you to test both these numbers in this case. Excuse me. To make sure you got it. Now again, remember, common sense, in the number system, we can have negative numbers. Okay? In the area, you cannot have negative dimensions. All right? So you have to know which one applies to which. So I'll just do the math real quick. I'll just use this right here to see, and I'll test my positive root first. So I know I got n squared is 49 plus 2 times n, which is 14. So I got 49 plus 14 is equal to 7 times 8 is, that's right, 56 plus 8 times 7, times plus 7, my apologies. So I got 49 plus 14 is going to be 63 equals 63. So we figured it out on the first one. This is our valid answer, n equals 7. And I'll have one more for you in just a second. All right, back for the last example. So, last one, and then hopefully this is enough for you guys to pause, watch over again, understand. If not, come and see me. Last question says, the length of a rectangle is 8 feet less than its width. The area is 240 feet squared. Find the dimensions. So again, I'm going to draw myself my picture just so I can see it. All right, I got my width is my x, and my length is 8 feet less than its width. Remember, give yourself that little equation. Length is, or y equals, in this case, L equals 8 feet less than its width. So the width is, we're calling x minus 8. So I got x minus 8 right here, and I got my area equals 240. All right, so let's set up our equation. I got x times x minus 8 equals 240. We all see that? Looks like we can. So now I just carry out the distributive property, and I'm going to solve for this, because this is my length times my width is equal to my area. I got x squared minus 8x equals 240. And like all quadratics, make it equal to 0, so subtract this from both sides. So I got x squared minus 8x minus 240 equals 0. Now, for something like this with a number so large, I'm not expecting you guys to know how to factor this, and realistically, I wouldn't even bother wasting my time to figure out what the factors of negative 240 add to negative 8. It takes too much time. So I'm going to use the quadratic formula instead, okay? So I'm going to do the quadratic formula. I got opposite of b, so that's 8, plus or minus square root of negative 8 squared is 64. I got minus 4 times 1 times negative 240 all over 2 times 1. Now, I'm really good at math, so I know what this, and remember this times this is a positive, so this times this is going to be positive 960 plus 64 is 1,024. So I got 8 plus or minus square root of 1,024 all over 2. Square root of 1,024 is 32. I just happen to know that. I don't know why. It's really strange. I got 8 plus or minus 32 all over 2. Now, do both math, all right? 8 plus 32 is 40, divided by 2 is x could equal 20. I'm sorry, yeah, 40 divided by 2 is 20. And 8 minus 32 is negative 24, divided by 2 is negative 12. So I wonder which answer makes the most sense in this case. That's right, x equals 20. And you can even check that out if you want, but 20 times 12 is 240, and we're good to go. So hopefully this makes sense for you guys, and you guys can do the work, and I will have the Khan Academy assigned for you guys today, so just a couple lessons there. Keep you guys busy, having fun. Come and see me for questions. Thank you.